Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Levenstein.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent meditation. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Burton? Mr. Doré? Ms. Green? Here. Mr. Howard? Here. Mr. Lamar? Here. Mr. Levenstein? Here. Ms. Mineo? Here. Mr. Stridiron? Here. Mr. Walker? Here.
I guess I'm going to turn this meeting over to Dr. Manning Campbell.
Thank you so much. Welcome, members of the community. We're in for an amazing presentation by the Meadow Hill School. Mr. Scott Prokosh, come on up.
Good evening. On behalf of the faculty, staff, students, and administration from Meadow Hill, we appreciate you having us here this evening. We have for you this evening a very brief 1-hour presentation. I was told very clearly 15 minutes. We will use all of our 15 minutes and hopefully no more. But this evening's presentation is simply for you to get a better understanding of Meadow Hill School and what we are very proud of in our building. So the majority of our 15 minutes will not be me speaking to you, but will be our students presenting to you. We tried to have one student from every grade level here this evening to be able to present to you. The highlight of what we are presenting this evening is in relationship to thinking maps. We are the only thinking map school in the district. And we just want to be able to highlight and show you what we do with thinking maps in our building as it relates to the climate and culture, as it relates to any academic programs that we do at Meadow Hill. Thinking maps can be infused within our building and what we do. So with that said, 3 parts to this brief presentation: who we are, what we do, and how we do it. I can't be blamed for the clicker not working, however. Hold on one second. So very briefly, who we are. At Meadow Hill School, we are the 2nd largest school in the district with, as of an enrollment of this morning, of 1,028 students. We have a breakdown of exceptional learner students. We have the 812 autistic continuum at Meadow Hill School in K through 8 with 50 students in that program. We have inclusion co-taught in all grade levels K through 8 at 90 students with a total population of 13.6% of our students in an exceptional learner program. English language learners, we are a bilingual school as well as an ENL school. So we have 111 students in ENL with 125 students in transitional bilingual, with a total of 23% of our population at Meadow Hill School in a transition, as an L student. And then we have 652 students in general education. All of that can't be done without an amazing faculty and staff, and that is everyone from our CSEA, NTA, to the administrative team. So as you can see, and I don't have to read it to you, we have 176 employees at Meadow Hill who work diligently every single day to bring, hopefully, the fruition of what we believe is a strong academic foundation with a strong SEL component and a lot of fun, because we want to have fun at Meadow Hill School. So with that said, this evening we did have 2 students who wanted to talk to you a little bit more about who we are and who they are. So we had a kindergarten student and a 8th grade student. Unfortunately, our 8th grade student is unable to make it this evening. However, without further ado, I would love to welcome Gabby, who is a kindergarten student here at Meadow Hill. How are you going to reach that? All right. Are you okay if I lift her? Okay, ready? Let's turn around. Go, face me. Okay, ready? Okay, Gabby. Right? Are you ready? Okay.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Fascio. I am in kindergarten. Michelle is my teacher. I play chant about Meadow Hill School. I like me.
Okay.
I like Taylor for. I like Miss Sharina. Kindergarten is fun. Specials are fun. I go to library, music, or entertainment. We have town hall. I love my friends.
And what is your favorite book to read?
My favorite book to read is Do Not Open This Book.
Thank you. And just as an example, are you done? Okay, you want to show your thinking map? Okay, so you hold it right here so they can see. And Gabby wanted to show you her thinking map, so she put everything that she just read to you on her thinking map that she brainstormed about what she likes about Meadow Hill School. Thank you, Gabby. So this is just a brief overview of some of the things that we do at Meadow Hill. Again, in the form of a thinking map, in this case of a tree map, in which we are categorizing the different items that we use at Meadow Hill. So for academics, we have everything from student-led conferences, which we have a student speaking to you this evening about. We do events like the Moving Forward Festival, where we're preparing kids for the following school year to know and understand what to expect at the end of this school year, so they know what they are walking into next year. We have college and career planning taking place. Through ARC, we have publishing parties. We collaborate with our families and communities as often as possible. Some of our biggest events are Dad's University. We have a huge culture fair every year that's sponsored by our 4th grade, but any student is welcome to present to our faculty, students, staff, and families their culture. They do storyboards, they dress in their culture, they bring foods of their culture to present to everyone. We have, I venture a guess to say, the largest Veterans Day breakfast in the district, with well over 100 veterans every year. We have senior dinners. We just did this one this past Saturday at Burton Towers, of which 3 times a year we go to City of Newburgh, Town of Newburgh, and Town of New Windsor to host a senior event where we feed our seniors, we play games with them and socialize, and then at the end of the year, the seniors come to Meadow Hill School for a senior prom, and they truly do get dressed up and are ready to go. We have various PTO events. We also support our students through Ruler. We have an attendance initiative. Our current attendance initiative is our Attend Dance. So if you have a certain percentage of attendance in our building, at the end of the day, by grade level, you get to attend a dance right at the end of the school day, where you get to party a little bit and get to have fun for meeting an attendance standard that we have set. We have what's called the Giving Tree, where we give back to our faculty, or to our students who are in most need, to make sure during the holiday season they have what they need to celebrate for their holiday. Go into Beyond the Classroom, the Empire Program, Drama Club. We have just started an elementary tutoring program. We have various events that we do that are supportive of our students, both during the day and after school. And we can't forget our faculty and staff. I truly believe in order to lead a building, our faculty and staff have to be as happy as possible, which translates into the classroom. So we do Wellness Wednesdays. We do GEM nominations, where we nominate faculty and staff for just going above and beyond in what they do. We have Meadow Hill Cheer and morale events. We do breakfast and barbecues. And we also have a faculty and staff prom at the end of the year. So the next few very quick presentations are about some of these items that we do a little bit more extensively. So the first up, we'd like to welcome a 2nd grader, Miriam, to talk about our Ruler program. I think we can get you down here, okay?
Hi, my name is Miriam Travely. I am in 2nd grade at Meadow Hill School. I am going to tell you about my class charter. These are my favorite parts of the charter from room 12. First, to be smart, we will participate. Next, to be safe, we will listen to announcements. To be respected, we will compliment others. To be proud, we will earn medals for reading. These are some of the ways we will feel good in room 12.
Thank you. Thank you, Miriam. And as you can see, every classroom has a class charter. We try to put our charters in the form of a thinking map. And this is what our students reference day in and day out. If we walk into any classroom at Meadow Hill and ask them what their charter is, what it does, and how they abide by it, they will be able to tell you so, as young as in kindergarten, in this case, second grade. So thank you, Miriam. Next up, a little unique to Meadow Hill School, we do not do traditional parent-teacher conferences. We do student-led conferences. So in order for parents to meet with the teacher, the child has to come with the student. We perform a student-led conference first, where the student owns their learning. And then after that conference takes place, the family can meet with the teachers to discuss further. At this time, we'd like to welcome Ava, a grade 6 student, who also happens to be my daughter.
Hello, my name is Ava Prokash, and I'm a 6th grader at Meadow Hill School. This evening, I'm going to present to you the sequence of a student-led conference. First, you thank your parents for coming to the conference. Next, you ask that they hold any comments or questions until after the student is done presenting. Then you give your parents an index card to write questions and comments on the different core subjects. Next, you talk about math, what you're learning now, what you're proud of, and what you could have improved on. Then you talk about science, what you're learning now, what you're proud of, and what you could have improved on. Next, you talk about social studies, what you're learning now, what you are proud of, and what you could have improved on. Then you talk about English, what you're learning now, what you're proud of, what you could have improved on. After that, you talk about your student goal. Then you ask parents for comments or questions. You also set a goal with your parent. Lastly, you thank your parent for attending the meeting. I found this map useful because it helped me have an organized meeting, and I added details from my personal perspective, which allows me to take ownership of my learning.
Thank you, Ava. Next, we are going to have Nathaniel, who is a 5th grade student, talk about accountable talk, so at Meadow Hill School. It is an expectation that our students, when they explain or they are talking within the class, that they use accountable talk in which they will agree, disagree, or a myriad of other statements that they will use when they are communicating with their teachers and other students. At this time, Nathaniel, come on up.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Jacinto, and today I will be talking about the accountable talk we use in the classroom. When we use accountable talk, we think of certain conversations that you may not want to target the person, but you might just want to target what they're talking about, When you want to agree with someone, I would argue the same thing. If I would want to disagree with someone, I would say, I see your point, but if I were to add on to somebody, I would probably choose I'd like to piggyback off of or adding on to what said. If I was to ask somebody about what they were talking about, I would say, do you have a different idea? Or I would say, what's your opinion? If I wanted somebody to explain, to clarify sort of, not exactly, but, So if I wanted somebody to explain, I would say, how do you know your thinking is correct? And can you prove that? And for the clarify, if I were to clarify on something, I would use, could you be more specific about this is what this is what I think of when it comes to accountable talk.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Next up, we have a 7th grade student, Muzamil, who will be helping us talk about town halls. So at Meadow Hill, every grade level has town hall meetings in which we offer a plethora of information and also for students to speak to us. So without further ado, Muzamil.
Hi, I'm Muzamil Khan, and I will be telling you about what will happen if you attended a 7th grade. Hi, I am Muzamil Khan, and I will be telling you about what will happen if you attended a 7th grade town hall. You can get many awards like high honor roll, attendance rewards, leadership, and more. I have gotten high honor roll, attendance rewards, and scholarship. We sometimes discuss about bullying, and we get told about dances and celebrations. In conclusion, town halls are for giving information about upcoming events, and you might even get an award. Thank you for listening to me tell about what will happen if you attended a 7th grade town hall.
Good job, Muzamil.
And very, very quickly, we have 3 more students that are going to come up. You did receive a booklet that we put together for you. Certainly not going to go through it cover to cover. You're welcome to look at it at your leisure. They are examples from various grade levels, from various different students, all using thinking maps. Some of them have their writing that is coming off of the thinking map. That is one of the things that we focus on, is being able to read, write, and speak off of maps. At the very end, there are 3 examples. We have students coming up very quickly just to tell you about their 3 examples, and then we will finish for the evening. At this time, we would like to welcome Raiden, a grade 1 student, to talk about how they build sentences.
Hello, my name is Braden Ramos. I read a book about bears. I used a tree map to build sentences about bears. I wrote 3 sentences by categorizing connecting words. These are the sentences I wrote. Bears have fur and claws. Bears can fight and hide. Bears do growl.
You want to hold it up? You want to hold it up? Here, stay here. And like we said, at the back of your book, you'll see there's 3 examples, but this example is in your booklet where he did the map with the tree map, and he used his words to build his sentences. Thank you. Next up, we're welcoming our 3rd grade student, Renya Lise, who will be presenting a flea map on writing details about the sequence of a story.
Hello, my name is Ranjalise, and I am going to sequence the events with key details from the story Dinosaur Before Dark. I'm going to be reading off my map for you. Today I started reading Dinosaurs Before Dark. In the beginning of the story, Jack and Annie found a magic tree house, and Annie climbed up and screamed books. Jack loves books, so he climbed up the rope ladder to check it out. While he was up there, he found a book about dinosaurs, and he saw a pteranodon in the book and said that he wished he could go there. In the middle, everything was spinning, and they traveled back 65 million years ago. Annie climbed back down the ladder to explore. She found a pteranodon and named it Henry. Jack took notes about Henry. They saw a triceratops, and Annie found baby eggs. In the end, when they wanted to go home, Jack didn't have the book, So he went out to go get it, and he encountered a T-Rex. So Jack hid behind a tree, and he saw Annie coming down. He was worried for Annie. She was making hand movements to Henry. Then he saw Henry flying above him. When he got on Henry took Jack to the tree house, and then Jack and Annie went home. I like this book, and I can't wait to see what the next book is about.
Good job, sweetheart.
Thank you, Renulise. And that is an example of students putting their information into a flow map and writing off of it. And the last presenter this evening is from grade 4. We have Samantha, who maps to write and produce a book in Book Creator. So she created a whole series in the Book Creator. So Samantha, come on up.
Hi, I'm Samantha Taylor, and this is my tree map on penguins. This is their 5 senses. Penguins are mammals, also they live in Antarctica. For touch, penguins use their webbed feet to steer as they swim. Penguins are strong, fast swimmers. They push through the water with their wings. For sight, they head south toward towering ice. The cliffs offer some protection from the biting winds. Next, for hearing, the baby birds sing special songs to help their parents find them. The chicks peep and squeak. Next, for taste, there they can catch plenty of fish and squid. By now it's July, and the babies haven't eaten in 4 months. Female penguins are gone for 2 months. I found most of this information in a book called Penguins.
So once again, I hope we went a little over 15 minutes, but we try to keep it as concise as possible. So again, on behalf of the faculty, staff, students, and administration at Meadow Hill School, we greatly appreciate your time. We hope this gave you a little bit of insight as to what we do at Meadow Hill each and every day. And as always, you are more than welcome to come in at any time and see us in action on any day. So thank you again, and have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Meadow Hill, and what a great example of students taking ownership of their learning. Kudos to you. Thank you very much. Good job. Good job. You're welcome. You did a great job. Thank you very, very much. I don't see Linda. I don't see Linda Keach. She's here. Yeah, all right. Oh, there she is. Ms. Keach.
Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to recognize this year's Winter Card Contest winners the same night we celebrated Meadow Hill. Thank you so much to Dr. Manning Campbell for choosing 3 winners this year. So students across the district in grades K through 12 submitted their artwork virtually and in person for the 9th annual contest. And the winner's artwork is being made into invitations for this year's virtual superintendent celebration of the arts. And the celebration will be posted on the website starting on February 13th. I don't believe our grade 2 winner is here tonight, and I have a copy of their work, but their original work is with the print shop right now getting made into the cards. So our grade 2 winner is Gaza Asidi from Baumville School, and her teacher was Miss Kayla Allen, and her work is entitled Penguin. So this is her work. And we do have our 5th grade winner with us tonight. His name is Freddie Roland, and he's also from Bombville School. His teacher was Miss Kayla Allen, and his work is entitled The Snowy Morning.
You did a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Dr. Squires wants to take a picture of you. Look.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did it. Can you say it again?
Thank you.
And we also have our 9th grade winner here this evening, and it's Jasenia Vaquero from NFA North, and her teacher is Miss Liz Deo, and her work actually is digital, and it's entitled Winter Night.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
Congratulations.
I know it's a beautiful. Jeez. Did you blow it today?
Congratulations to all of our winners and to all of the students that submitted their artwork. And thank you, Dr. Manning Campbell, for displaying the other students' artwork that was submitted in the central office hallways, if you notice when you go in there. Special thank you to the art teachers that contributed their students' artwork for consideration. And just a reminder, Fine and Performing Arts Department has begun its winter concert season last week with in-person performances, very exciting, all across the district and in the community. Please check the district calendar for specific days and times. We're hoping that Mother Nature is good to us on Thursday night. We're so excited to be able to feature all of our amazing performers again this year in person. So thank you so much again. Have a safe and happy holiday season.
Thank you so much. Mr. McLemore?
Thank you, Dr. Campbell, President of the Board, Carol Manale, members of the Board. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Robbie Green of the Mid-Hudson School Study Council. And what she's going to do is she's going to come up and she's going to recognize some of our new emerging leaders of the administrative pipeline. The partnership between SUNY New Paltz and SUNY New Paltz and the Mid-Hudson Study Schools Council. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Robbie Green.
Thank you. It's good to be here tonight, and it's the best to see the kids celebrated first. That's the best part of the meeting, I'm sure, for all of you folks. But we celebrate the older kids now, if you will. So I am the executive director of the Mid-Hudson School Study Council, and the essential question everyone asks is, what's that? So I will start with just explaining to you, we're right up the hill. We're housed at Mount St. Mary. We are a nonprofit educational organization, and we are membership driven, and that's the most important part because I'll circle back to that. Any school district in the 7 counties that comprise the Hudson Valley can be members of the council. And we also have 14 colleges who have teacher preparation programs that are located in those 7 counties, and there are members also. The mission of the council is anything that the membership asks us that furthers the education and the issues that we face, both K-12 and at the higher education level. And really our job is to wed those two things. We can be very separate entities in schools and in colleges. And if we're talking about preparing our teachers to teach our next generation of students, we need to be really speaking to what is it we want in our new teachers. And we have to communicate that well. And that's part of really what we do, and we spend a lot of time on that. But as part of that, We do, and I have actually brought you last year's copy. We do a survey each year. This is the final report, and we've been doing this for 7 years. And we were asked to do it by the membership because we need to get our arms around what is it that we have in common that we could address and solve, but we need data for things. One of the things that we saw when we first began this whole data research project, which is in your office right now, this year's edition, is we started asking and projecting how many are you going to need in every teaching category, but also how many administrators are you going to need in the next 3 years? Because if they're not in the pipeline, they don't exist. We can't turn them into administrators overnight. And what we found was that just last year, for example, if you look at our data, we hired 65 entry-level administrators. In the next 3 to 6 years, we'll need 76 more. This is not a one-and-done initiative. This is an ongoing initiative that we in the Hudson Valley have developed, and we have moved this cohort initiative around. So that brings me to tonight. And the cohort project first began in the spring of 2018 after our data showed that we had a startling number of expected administrative openings over the next several years. When we saw the projections, as I said, we're membership driven. The first thing we did was to survey our local colleges and universities, and we asked how many administrators, future administrators, are in your programs? How many are being prepared right now? And out of our 7-county region, when we talked to our colleges, the answer was alarming. In fact, no program in our colleges at that time had more than single-digit enrollment in administrative leadership training programs. Fast forward to 2022. This Newburgh cohort that we honored tonight puts our total number of newly certified administrators at just over 175 in just those 5 years. I can confidently say that the Hudson Valley is well positioned to meet the needs of these future administrators. The Newburgh Pipeline Project is really a project within a project, and I will explain that this way. We take the data as the council, and we look at where in our counties the next need is going to be the greatest, who has the most need coming up, and we will move our cohort around. Our students actually earn a SUNY New Paltz administrative degree. We are a nonprofit. We are the third-party provider. So we then go to SUNY New Paltz and we say, look at Rockland County. They're going to need 32 of them in the next 3 years. We need to get a cohort there and get these folks trained. This Newburgh one is the third one we've run on your campus. We ran 2 cohorts several years ago, and you've employed most of them, by the way. You're very loyal to hiring your own, which is just outstanding, and that's the point of this. And this is our third time here on your campus. The cohorts are blended in the sense that we host them on your campus. Your teachers who have been invited or identified by your own staff as potential leaders get first shot at the slots. If we have additional slots open, we open it to the rest of the county. Yours was quite interesting because you had 2 gentlemen from the Schenectady City Schools who were part of, they drove down every Saturday and joined you folks in classes because they needed that certification. They had jobs waiting. They asked us, can we join new? Of course you can if we have slots. So it gives a real blend of experience because you get to hear what's happening also in other districts. And you get to have a little vision beyond your own walls, but at the same time, you become a professional learning community where one of you have a job and you get assigned like, do a safety plan. You have someone you could pick up the phone and say, I just got to sign this. Have you had to do that? We're building a professional community in the Valley, and we believe that very strongly because it will make each of our administrators better. So tonight we congratulate Fior, Lauren, Gina, Shannon, Allison, and Sandy as our newest leadership graduates, 3 of whom I believe already have jobs. And we congratulate the Newburgh District for having that vision over the years to call us and say, can we do another cohort here? We're ready again. Because it shows that you are looking into your own ranks for your next generation of leaders. They know your community, they know your kids, they know your family, and it's a commitment. It's a huge commitment on their part. They are earning an administrative degree from SUNY New Paltz, certified by New York State. They have to take the courses, which, by the way, they're 2 courses each semester, all day, 3 Saturdays, each course. That's a huge personal commitment. They don't get paid for that. They also have to juggle their family and everything else. They do their internships in your own district. They are tailored to what your district needs. They do their internship hours there. And at the end of the coursework, they must sit for the New York State certification exam. When they finish that, and I believe your last class was 2 Saturdays ago, I think you finished with law, didn't you? Yes, educational law course. They sit for the New York State exam. They are certified to be hired as administrators. And we continue to be proud of the Hudson Valley for this program, but we also say we're proud of it because we're turning out some of the most amazing administrators. And they're coming and they're staying in our communities. They're not going other places. So I congratulate each of you. Dr. Hackett has asked that you please keep her posted as to where you are. And on her behalf, she also asked me to share her congratulations. So if you want to just stand up, we are very, very proud of you. And thank you.
Can you call them and have them come up?
Yes. Shannon? Shannon, congratulations on behalf of Newburgh there. Just stand right there. Allison? Congratulations, Allison. Congratulations. Join the crew. Lauren? Congratulations. And we have Sandy? Not here? Fior? Congratulations. And we have Gina. Congratulations. How exciting.
Congratulations. You want to go take a picture?
Oh, that's okay. I got one downstairs on the steps.
Okay.
The money's behind it. I also have brought, just for the board's knowledge, I brought a copy of last year's so that you can take a look at all of the data we collect. But you will find the part in there about administrators so you can really have a good idea of what data we use. So we have a copy for you. I would just end by thanking the Newburgh School District for a couple things. One is continuing to open your doors to host our programs. The second is your commitment to your own teachers. It's admirable. And the third is for being a longtime member of the Mid-Hudson Study Council. We appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, administrative pipeline people. That's really nice. And Meadow Hill, of course, that was great. And the holiday cards were really beautiful. So thank you, everybody. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for the following purpose. Matter made confidential under FERPA, employment history of particular individuals, employment history of particular corporations, matters leading to the employment of particular individuals, the review of program and placement of students with disabilities, collective bargaining under the Taylor Law, CSCA, NASA, discussion regarding current litigation, DS versus the NECSD et al., CO versus NECSD, AK versus NECSD, SB versus NECSD, and to obtain advice from legal counsel. I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Doré, Ms. Green? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron? Mr. Walker?
We'll be back in a while.
Branch lease renews in July, so I sought to get a meeting as soon as possible, and that meeting was held on June 16th. We were told at that meeting that our town branch would need to relocate shortly because a restaurant had already been designated for our location. They said they would help us find a new space in one of the other vacant stores on the Sears end of the mall. With the casino coming in, our end of the mall was slated for retail, entertainment, and restaurants. The next day, I asked for a meeting with the owner of the mall and for Town Councilman Scott Manley to join us to help advocate for the library. He's been a great supporter of everything that we've done over there. That meeting took place on June 29th with the owner. At this meeting, we discussed the greater plans for the facility once the casino moves in, which was supposed to be late summer at that time and was then moved to late fall. The mall's main goal is to make this a destination entertainment center. So they're looking to attract all sorts of entertainment, upscale, high-end boutique services, cigar bar, aquarium, spa, salon, etc. And that while his ultimate goal is to make money, the library could stay on as a specialty tenant. So at this time, our library staff circulated a survey among the mall patrons, and while to a person they were disappointed at the possibility of losing the space, they understood our predicament and asked us to continue to explore all options to keep a presence in the town of Newburgh and close to the town of New Windsor. So we wanted to do our due diligence and explore all of these options. Over the summer, we met with the mall manager who showed us 2 potential spaces we could move into that were larger than our current 3,000 square foot space. The former Olympia Sports, 4,800 square foot, and the former Foot Locker, 4,100 square foot spaces. Both would need to be renovated pretty extensively, paint, construction, shelving, new service desk, etc. Removal of former fixtures, repair of the gates, replacement of sound systems would all be on our dime, and none of which was budgeted. The owner would possibly help us move our fixtures and materials if we agreed to sign a multi-year lease. We would have had to move all of our furnishings and materials if we were able to relocate to another spot in the mall, but we faced a number of stumbling blocks that made this situation unworkable. While a temporary location to another space was an option initially, we needed to have buildings and grounds assess the location and get an idea of the cost associated with the renovation. Unfortunately, the Halloween store was moved into that space, and we were considering, and management would not allow the district to check out the space while it was occupied. He said we could not access that space until January of 2023. Additionally, they continued seeking a multi-year lease from us to give us a break on the rent. Not only are multi-year leases not the practice of the district, but with the mall in a state of flux, there were too many unknowns to make that kind of a long-term financial commitment. The casino moving in has caused a major disruption to service this year, and their opening date changed multiple times, but it is now set for December 28th. Many of the storefronts remain vacant as potential businesses are waiting to see how the casino environment works out. If we were not willing to sign a multi-year lease, we would have to pay market rate, which was quoted to me as $5,000 or $6,000 a month, $60,000 a year, when we've been paying $12,000 a year for the last 10 years, and it was just something we couldn't afford. So the library needed a decision by mid-November if a deal was going to be reached with the mall so we could plan our move to another location in the mall or to consolidate operations at the main location here. As an agreement could not be reached, and with the holidays upon us, we had to close operations to the public on November 23rd and aim our sights at being fully moved out by December 31st. Moving out of our space is no simple task, as we have multiple contracts with book vendors for the town branch. All of our leased collections need to be accounted for, boxed, and returned. Furniture and displays need to be moved back to the main location, and we need to dismantle our technology as well as the Ramapo-Catskill Library Systems Network. So we considered all of our options, but ultimately had to make the decision to leave at the end of the year, consolidate with the main library, say goodbye to a place we've really loved, and console our loyal and loving patrons and invite them to see us at the main location. But we remain optimistic. When a door closes, another opens. We had a great 10-year run at the Newburgh Mall, and that was an opportunity we never expected to have. So this predicament has been placed before us, and having explored all feasible options at the mall, we will now look to options the future holds that we may never have been able to imagine before. So to all of our Town Branch fans, we love them and we thank them for their support, well wishes, and especially for their kind sentiments about our wonderful library staff who were regular friendly faces for many years. And we hope to see them at the main library, which we have been seeing over the last couple of weeks, which has been great. But we also want to extend a special invitation. The library will be convening a group of interested staff and citizens to help us explore, innovate, and create what a new town branch looks like now and for 2023 and beyond. So we are inviting the community to join in the dialogue as we will hold a few in-person brainstorming sessions and Zoom town halls to hear everyone's ideas. Anyone interested should call the Library Administration Office at 845-563-3605 to be added to the invitation list for upcoming meetings in January and February. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 3.3 will be presented in January. Item 3.4, Ms. Roaring will provide information about the budget development process. Sure.
Good evening. This evening's budget update is around how we're going to build this year's budget for fiscal 24. So as we look at building our budget for fiscal year 23-24, each building will receive an allocation that is a specific amount per student times their October 22 enrollment. That is a bit of a different approach than we've had in the past. Textbooks will continue to be managed by curriculum and instruction. Our principals will be responsible for managing the building allocations. School budgets are intended to include field trip expenses, classroom supplies, end-of-year events, overtime for clerical and security in their buildings, office supplies, and mailings. We are doing an inclusive process as we build this budget. Each principal has been provided with their building allocation and guidance on what is to be covered with these funds. We've had technical support sessions with the principals where they are able to pose questions and receive software support as they enter that request into WinCap. Those sessions were held on December 6th and 9th. They were voluntary. December 6th, however, was very well attended. I believe every principal participated in that session. Questions have also come in via principals meeting feedback, emails, and phone calls, and we continue to respond to those questions. Clarifying and additional guidance has been provided, and a work session will be held on December 16th. This is a shift in how funds have been allocated and the flexibility and how they can be used by our buildings. We are also looking at our staffing. We are doing a complete staffing review process, which is underway. We're updating our position titles for budget purposes to be more descriptive. We are reviewing retirements and positions that have been supported by one-time funds to make sure what positions will be backfilled. These may have to move from one-time funds into our general fund as we go forward. Looking at the departments, the process is a little bit different. So each division and department leader is going to go through a zero-based budgeting process. This includes specific information for their equipment needs, whether it's new or replacement, instructional, operational. They will be providing the specific items they expect to purchase and the associated costs anticipated. Our contract services will also include things needed for Ed Law 2D compliance and cybersecurity, overtime, tuition for out-of-district placements, supplies for custodial office, and our training and professional development for staff. The rationale for this is that the district has had additional resources from one-time federal funds that have supported equipment, personnel, academic programs, and mechanical upgrades. These funds end as we approach our fiscal 24-25. So it's important that we review those that are not one-time expenses to determine what needs to be sustained and how it can be. The district is required to have a sustainability plan for these expenses that have been in one-time funds, and this process is going to help us develop that plan. We did also want to provide an opportunity for requests. So each building principal, division, and department leader have been given the opportunity to make specific requests associated with their building that goes beyond the allocation that they have been given. They could be minor maintenance requests, new initiatives that support the district's strategic plan and goals, or specific program that may exceed their per student allocation. When we consider minor maintenance requests, those are generally repairs that wouldn't be eligible for building aid, so those we would do in an operating budget. Any requests that come in that would be eligible for building aid, we will be compiling those requests and considering those as we look at future capital projects. So an example of a minor maintenance may be refinishing a stage or replacing carpet in specific areas. One example that came to mind of a specific program is our Big Picture program at NFA West. Next slide, please. When we look at our next steps, we're going to compile all the budget requests that are due this month. We're going to complete the review of positions, including retirements, one-time funded, and those required for mandated programs. Review all the requests as they come in and determine priority dependent upon funding availability. Prepare our initial look at fiscal 24 budget, and provide ongoing updates to the Board of Education and stakeholders as we move through the budget development process.
Board members, any questions or comments on the budget process for this year? Yes, sir.
So this is a completely different way of looking at the budget, correct? So when we make this budget and we vote on it in April, you're going to need to know exactly, excuse me, what programs are going to be in place at every single building. How many sixth grade classes, how many fourth grade classes, kindergarten. What happens if that changes in a building? How does the budget change in the building if you add an extra classroom at one of the schools?
So every budget should be built with some flexibility. As we know, enrollment changes as we go along. So we continue to evaluate enrollment by grade level at each building, and we make adjustments as we need to. It doesn't have to be that precise because we know that there are changes and we have to allow for that.
So I know you don't have to be too precise, but as far as the difference between the school buildings and the central office, you're going to need to know exactly the same thing at central office. So if you want to add people, you're going to be kind of restricted. Or if you're going to cut, that money is going to be allocated to some other resource. So that's going to be known in April.
So, yes, one of the things that Kimberly spoke about, we've been meeting, Human Resources and Finance, we've been meeting together to really look at the positions, coding of positions, and whether or not we still need those positions moving forward. We are really analyzing to ensure that we have the right positions, the right folk in the right places in our budget to make sure it's represented appropriately. So we're trimming some of the fat wherever we find, if that makes sense.
Go ahead, Mr. Stradone.
So I know at the end of the year you get those requests for transfers. How does that affect the budget? I mean, you're still going to fill the positions, but if you're going to have a need and you can't hire people, then you're going to have to shift students from one building to another possibly, or how is that going to work?
Well, transfer depends on vacancy, and so we won't move folks into a position that does not exist in a building. So if there's a vacancy, then there's a process that folks apply to go into the position. We won't necessarily, as Kimberly talked about, we have to make sure that we're flexible. We know that sometimes we get numbers in our lower grades more frequently if we look at enrollment patterns. In terms of the upper grades, we may get a few students here or there, but we can put them in different areas of our district. But in terms of numbers and where we get the most students are really in the lower grade levels And we plan for those types of enrollment numbers. That's something that we study. We know the trends for that, so that's something that we know. You're welcome.
Board members, are there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Levinstein.
So I have a question on the school building allocations where you're leaving it up to the principals to decide how to spend some monies based on the number of students in the building. And I guess basically it's not going to be staff or anything like that, or even security, but it's going to be field trips, classroom supplies, end-of-year events, what you have listed here. Overtime for clerical and security, office supplies, and mailings. So the only thing that concerns me is overtime for clerical and security as being something that may not be on the list that, oh, maybe we shouldn't have that because we're going on a field trip. So I think that's something that maybe should be pulled out of that because to me, it's a lot more important. Now, I'm not saying to waste money on that, but I just think those items are a little different than office supplies and mailings and things like that.
So we've had a lot of internal conversations about that, and one of the things that comes with leading the building is determining the events that you hold. So there is some thought process behind having them engaged in that. I would also note that the allocations of discretionary money planned for next year are definitely different than what the buildings have had in the past. So we're giving them the resources to do this and then supporting them as they navigate it.
Thank you.
My question is, how are you going to support those principals who are always the last-minute budget people that look, at the end when you say you got to spend your money? How are you going to support them so that they begin in September and begin spending then?
So I think that comes with some active conversations and collaboration with CNI as they're meeting with the principals, and we look at how are you spending your budget. We're taking them through some processes of how they evaluate and budget manage. So as you're monitoring your spending and you're considering the spending cutoff, the end of year, those are things that we have to navigate, and we are answering a lot of technical support questions because this is new to them, and we recognize that.
I think you're giving a lot of flexibility to the principals, and I think they're going to appreciate that, and to the individual school buildings, so they can provide programs that are appropriate for their kids and their particular programs. I really like that a lot.
May I say something? To that point, I think we're moving towards ensuring that we have an equitable budget. We can no longer do a one-size-fits-all budget because every building has a different culture and a different personality. So that is what we're moving towards, is really identifying programs by building and having the principals input with their staff to make sure that we're driving the budget appropriately.
My only comment would be smaller buildings sometimes get the short end because what's happening is if you're going per pupil, sometimes they can't do what some of the larger buildings can do. Is there some flexibility in there? Because I know if your building is small, you want to do the stuff that the big buildings are doing. Go ahead.
So we agree, but we're going to make sure that it's equitable, and we are also, not only are we looking at numbers, but also looking at types of programs and student need. So we're moving towards a more equitable budget and not necessarily building size.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else questions on budget prep? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Thank you. It's my section. For your consideration, I have items 4.1 through 4.7 as a consent agenda this evening. Would any member like to separate out any of these items? I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Questions or discussion? Yes, sir.
It's not a question, but on item 4.6, the removal of policies from the policy manual, one of them is 8202, which is internet safety. It used to be 4526.1, which was computer use and instruction and internet safety. But this policy came into effect in 2016 after 2 unsuccessful attempts at trying to get it passed. So at the time, well, let me just read the objectionable part of that policy that I've been fighting against for years. Basically, it deals with technology protection measures to block and filter internet access for child pornography. Subject to staff supervision, however, any such measures may be disabled or relaxed for adults conducting bona fide research or other lawful purposes in accordance with criteria established by the superintendent or his or her designee. When this was first introduced in early 2016 at the policy committee, I flipped my lid and it got pulled from the agenda. Then it got put back on, and 2 months later on the agenda at the meeting, and it got pulled from the agenda. So in, what month was it? August 23rd of 2016, the superintendent recommended 36 policies be put on the agenda at the same time so that I didn't pick it up. And it got passed. And I would like to know if this policy was ever used. I would like to know if the regulation, which states that the computer network coordinator or his or her designee may disable or relax the district's internet blocking and filtering technology measures only for adult staff members conducting research. What kind of research would a district administrator need to do for child pornography? I would like to know if this was ever used. And another policy, I don't know if it's still in effect.
Well, let's answer that one first.
Okay,
Okay? So would anybody like to answer that? Because I have an answer partially. Go ahead.
So to my knowledge, this policy has not been used. Ed Law 2D is pretty strict on certain filters that we must have and certain searches. So that, we don't have a separate set for adults. There may be certain situations in investigations, but that would have to be approved by the superintendent or the board. So any searches in regards to this, we don't have a separate set of rules for staff or adults. I mean, students or adults.
But the language says bona fide research. That concerned me at the time, and it was kind of blown off as, well, this is only for, like, police. Well, police don't need a policy. This is talking about district employees using this. So if you say it's never been used, that's fine, but I would like to know if it ever was.
Mr. Forget?
I just want to provide some clarity. We're removing it from the district website, but it is already on board docs. So if you go to board docs, policy 4526, internet safety, that policy is reflected in board docs already. So it was housed in two different warehouses. I'm just answering your question as to why we're eliminating it. We're not eliminating it. It's already on board docs as a policy.
So the question would be, is that language still embedded in this particular policy?
I'm verifying that now.
Okay.
Yes.
So would you like to refer that back to policy when we have a chance?
I would
Okay.
like to have that removed because I don't think there's any reason to have that in there.
Let's refer that back to policy, and we'll bring it back to the board. Because
And the other policy,
It's as it is the new one on the website, not that it's not going to be transitioned, right? No, it's going to put it on the policy committee agenda.
Put 4526 on the policy.
Yes. Okay? All right.
that'd be great.
What's your
Thank you.
second question?
The second question is, we have a policy, it's number 4550.1, notification of sex offenders, which I think is still in effect. That one basically allows the superintendent to allow level 3 sex offenders in our school that only him or her and the parole officer can authorize.
Mr. Stradine, what they're talking about is those numbers that you have
Yes.
are being moved from one place to another. So my suggestion is let's bring that one also up can you write me a note with your objection, and we'll put it on the policy agenda?
I would like to know if this policy was ever used to allow a level 3 sex offender to gain any access to our building, because by law, they're not allowed in our buildings. So that's important.
We'll bring that to policy, and we'll get back to you, okay? I promise.
Thank you.
Thank you. So does anybody else have any comments or discussion on items 4.1 through 4.7? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Mr. Duray? Yes. Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Thank you. We're going to move on to board committees. Policy Committee, Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Madam President. Policy Committee met on December 1st. We had discussions around all the policies that were just voted on in the President's section. That was number 8110, which was about building safety, 8112, Health and Safety Committee, 8130, School Safety Plans and Teams, 8120, and 4800. We also talked about the resolution to approve the removal of policies, which we just discussed, and we talked about the resolution to authorize the superintendent of schools to execute an agreement with NSBA. And we talked about the integration of policies on district website to board docs. Thank you.
The next two committees, Audit and Finance and Facilities, are led by Mr. Levinstein.
Thank you, Madam President. So the Audit and Finance met at 5 p.m. tonight, and we discussed the 5 resolutions that are on tonight's finance agenda. The Facilities Committee met on December 7th, and we discussed the capital bond projects, including buildings in the redesign process, which is CTE and New Windsor, and buildings in the construction process, which is Heritage and Vales Gate. And we discussed the project schedules, cost schedules, approval, and bidding schedules going forward. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Levinstein. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction Elementary, Mrs. Moriarty.
Thank you, Madam President. Elementary Curriculum Instruction has item 6.1 for your consideration this evening.
I'd like to entertain a motion. Questions or discussion? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Mr. Duray? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levinstein? Yes.
Let's.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my items.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Moriarty. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction Secondary, Dr. Farrell.
Thank you, Madam President. We have items 7.1 through 7.7 for your consideration this evening.
Would any member like to separate out any of these items? I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Questions or discussions on this item, on these items? Yes, Mr. Levinstein.
So just a quick question on the sign language class that's being moved forward. Does that meet the criteria for a language requirement
Yes,
for our students?
Yes, it does.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As a matter of fact, there used to be a Regents, and it would get Regents credit for it. Yes, Mr. Stridiron.
I'm very happy that the sign language is coming in, and if we can also get a coding class, a coding course that's, I don't know if it would be a language or a math, but that would really be something that would be incredible. Thank you.
We will certainly explore that potential.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on these items? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Mr. Duray? Yes. Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my portion of the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Farrell. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Exceptional Learners, Mr. Bayer.
Thank you, Madam President. Exceptional Learners has one item, 8.1, recommendations to the CSE and CPSE committees.
I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion on that item? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Mr. Duray? Yes. Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Ms. Roaring.
Thank you, Madam President. The Division of Finance has items 9.1 to 9.5 for routine consent this evening.
Would any member like to separate out any of these items? I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Dure? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my items this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Roaring. We're going to move on to our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Madam President. On the Human Resources agenda, I have items 10.1 through 10.21 for your consideration on tonight.
Would any member like to separate out any of these items? Yes, Mr. Levinstein?
10.2, please.
Any others? I'd like to entertain a motion on the items 10.1 through 10.21 minus 10.2. Questions or discussion on those items? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Mr. Walker? Mr. Dure?
Let's move on to item 10.2. I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion on 10.2? Yes, Mr. Levinstein?
Thank you, Madam President. So I separated this out, not to vote against it, but to ask questions. And I'd just like to understand, reading this as MOA, how we got here. So from what I read, food service helpers hired by October 31st, 2007 are paid one rate, and someone hired for the same exact job on November 1st, 2007, the next day or later, are paid a lower rate. So my first question before I have additional ones is that accurate?
Mr. McLemore?
So just to give you a backdrop, November 2007, there was an SMOA that was signed by the board president at that time, Funston Lewis, who's passed away, lowering the part-time hourly food service rate from what it was, which was higher, to now $9 an hour. And so the people that prior to November 2007, they were making a higher hourly rate than the people who were hired November 2nd, 2007, if there were any higher at that time. So it went from, I'm just going to give you an example, $11, people that were making $11, new people, November 2nd, $9. So you have two salary schedules that were flowing simultaneously at the same time.
So I understand that, and I think it's noble what you're doing now, getting rid of the lower salary schedule. But I don't get how we allowed this to happen, where an employee hired the next day was hired at a lower rate versus someone who was already on the job, doing the same job. It's 15 years ago that people, if they've been here this long, if they've been here 14 years, 11 months and 30 days, are paid less money for doing the same job as the person sitting next to them. So I don't know how we had how the board allowed that to happen.
So maybe we could ask Mr. Shaw if he would, do you know anything about this item? Let's see.
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. So, okay, so my questions are, I'm glad we're fixing it after 15 years. I see that you're retro paying the people only since September. That might have been, I still am not happy with all this. But my question really is, are there any other classifications in the district that have the same thing, where we're paying people a lower salary that was hired after a certain date? Are there any other CSEA or other that have the same thing?
Go ahead, Mr. McLemore.
Not that I'm aware of at this time. We don't know of any other or employees on a salary that has two salary schedules like that particular situation. I do know that during that time, there were layoffs. There were layoffs, which, you know, we were trying to squeeze a nickel from every place. So that's what precipitated this particular SMOA to have a lower rate. We were trying to get money from everywhere, every corner.
Mr. Levinstein, I understand that your heart really hurts for this, and you want to correct an incorrect thing. And I'm sure that Mr. McLemore feels the same way. So I think that if there is some, will you please bring that forward so that we can address that in
If there's additional,
yes, sir.
additional classifications of employees out there, that there's a two-tier process for the same job and only based on a lowering of a rate, which to me is incomprehensible. But anyway, I'm certainly voting yes for this to fix this problem.
Thank you. Now we're going to vote.
After 15 years, yes.
Anybody else have any comments on 10.2? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Levinstein. Yes. Ms. Mineo.
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron.
Yes.
Mr. Walker. Yes. Mr. DeRay. Yes. Mr. Howard.
Yes.
Madam President, I'd like to request to add an item.
Yes. Would you like to read the resolution, please?
Yes. Be it resolved that employee number 121322 shall be suspended with pay during the pendency of said Education Law 3028 proceedings.
I'd like to entertain a motion to add this to the agenda, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Roll call to add?
Ms. Mineo.
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron.
Yes.
Mr. Walker. Yes. Mr. DeRay. Mr. Howard. Mr. Levinstein.
I'd like to entertain a motion, please. Questions or discussion on this item? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Stridiron.
Yes.
Mr. Walker. Yes. Mr. DeRay. Yes. Mr. Howard. Yes. Mr. Levinstein. Ms. Mineo.
Yes.
That concludes my items, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Mr. McLemore. We're going to move on to the clerk of the board, and this is his last meeting as clerk of the board. So I'm very, very sad. Mr. McCoy.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the approval of the minutes from the November 22nd, 2022 regular meeting.
I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Walker? Yes. Mr. DeRay? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
It's been a pleasure serving as the clerk of the board for the last decade plus. I will do everything in my power to make sure there's a smooth transition with the new clerk, Mona, who starts on December 23rd. That concludes my items, Madam President.
And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you.
Point of order, Madam President.
Yes, sir.
Tell him to keep his phone on.
I think that's right. Happy holidays to everybody. See you. Wait. First we have to do, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting, please.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. DeRay? Yes. Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Mr. Stridiron?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Happy holidays, everybody. See you in 2023.